Hello.
Hey y'all.
Hey, family.
Welcome. Welcome to Put It All on the Table where queens talk about it. And of course, put it all on the table. I'm Nisha, the social advocate.
I'm Jackie, the wellness advocate.
I'm Roberta, the tool lady.
I'm Jay with the ish.
And we just want to thank everyone. Oh, we want to thank everyone for tuning in, new viewers, old viewers. We want to appreciate y'all. We also want to give a shout out to our guest of last week, Jason. He was wonderful. We thank him for being on the show and giving us a little insight on his new book. Y'all go copy it. What was the name of the book?
Unforgiven.
Forgiven. I'm
Unforgiven.
trying. It was a longer J. It was a longer title, and I just remember it was something. It wasn't just Unforgiven. Anyway, it's posted on our Facebook page. The link straight from Amazon. It's not expensive. It's a good read. It's got a little bit of his life story. So yeah. So today's topic is a little heavy. So it's a disclaimer. So viewers' discretion is advised. September is Suicide Awareness Month. So that's a little bit about what we're going to touch on today. And just so everyone knows, if you're ever feeling suicidal, hopeless, you feel like there's no reason to live, please reach out to someone you love, someone you trust, that you can confide in and talk to your emotions about. Please identify those around you who are able to help you and keep you calm, keep you grounded in a crisis or when you go into crisis mode. Um, and again, the suicide hotline number is 988. 988. Um, so suicide is a little taboo.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got some J energy in me today. And I'm gonna just jump right in and put my thoughts on the table. We are mental health advocates, of course, and mental health workers. We all do this professionally. We all have a good amount of experience. But I want to be a mental health professional today, but I also want to be Raenesha, right? So I have learned while getting my education and my degree that there are other countries who actually do assisted suicide. I'm not sure if you ladies are aware of that or have heard of that, but it's very interesting to me because it's not really something that America has normalized or taken on. So it's based, from what I remember, it's basically under certain conditions, right? Mostly when people are older and very sick. You can have someone come in and they will inject some sort of shot or something in your veins that will cause you to pass on. So I wanted to hear what you guys thought about that. Because there's a difference between, to me, assisted suicide where you're sick and you're just tired of just being hurting. Like you're going through it, you've lived a good life, and you're to the point where you want to control how much pain you endure, right? Versus kind of just having um, chemical imbalances in your body, or mental disorders, or just going through things and wanting to commit suicide. So Jackie, where's your head at with this?
Mm, I could. I don't think you're right. I don't think I've heard of it being legal here in the United States. Maybe, perhaps I've never, really looked into it, but I've heard of that before. And I could, understand. They're, really sick, and they're just They want to take power, back into, have power and say so and say, you know what, I'm tired of it. I can't do this no more. Maybe they're, already, close to, you know, like their end of their life, and the toxins probably that's being pumped into them to help them try to fight whatever sickness it is that they're fighting. They just decide, what I would like to, do assisted suicide. So I
Mm-hmm.
could, I could empathize. I know I've seen my mom. My mom passed away from stomach cancer. She was in a lot of pain, but she was fighting, fighting the good fight up until her last day. But I could understand because she would tell me, I'm tired already, but she's like, I'm gonna keep going. Um, and I know, like just suicide, and we're talking about we want to talk about suicide, because of depression, that you can't take it anymore. Definitely, like you said, seek out those who are closest to you to talk about what's going on, even if they're just thoughts and you're like, well, I'm never going to act upon it. You don't know, you just don't know, especially if you're self-isolating and not really, looking, not really, you can't see like the end of, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
But it is very real. I speak as someone who before, a few years back, I had suicidal thoughts, and it was just I was in this dark tunnel and this dark hole, and I could not see,
Mm-hmm.
the light. I could not see, when am I going to get out of this? When am I going to stop feeling like this? So it's very real. And I'm someone that when I've mentioned it to a few of my friends, they're like, really, you have your kids, you have a job, you have your husband, you seem happy. I'm like, yeah, that's on the outside.
Right.
Though, you really don't know what's going on in someone's head. So that's why I always say check in on your strong friends.
Yeah.
um, Definitely, because they're the ones that are struggling the most.
Okay. And I also want to point out that the suicide hotline is not just for like if you're suicidal. It's
Hmm.
also like if you're just struggling,
Yeah.
if you feel a crisis coming on, if you just are overwhelmed with emotions, they literally will talk you through it. They also have a plethora of resources that they can provide you, referrals, all types of things. So it's not just for suicide. You can call as many times as you want, as often as you want, as often as you need. They can support you in so many different ways. And I've never heard anything bad about the suicide hotline. I've never heard any bad reviews. So it seems like it's a really helpful tool for us all.
Hmm.
How about you, Roberta?
Well, it's just interesting that you went over into other countries first. I do see, I do see the difference. With, like Jackie said, is if you are actually, because that's what the assisted suicides are. If they're really struggling with some physical, some illnesses, that actually that's going to be the outcome, but they're going through that process of dying. But the other thing I thought, Nisha, when you said that, is that in the neighborhoods of color, which is what we represent here on our platform, they really don't believe in suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, but they do have suicide feelings, and we are, the numbers of suicide is high with Black men, Black women, and other people of color at this point, especially coming out of COVID. So it's very a very sobering and serious situation because it is real. Like Jackie said, those your emotions are real,
Yes, they are. And they can
and
easily take over.
yeah, yeah. So I look at it both ways. I can see both. I remember we had Dr. Javerkian here in America that was doing assisted
Oh.
killings.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yes, he was doing assisted killings for people who had illnesses that again were going to be the outcome of death.
Yeah,
So
terminal.
yeah, internal illnesses. So he was helping people in that end of the life thing. But the thing is, I guess the other question is, where do we stand out off as believing that? Because I've incurred people who they have experienced family members that have committed suicide, but they're in disbelief or the shame of even saying, as Jackie said at a time, I was suicidal. How do we how do we wrap our hands around that? I guess that's what I'm saying.
That's a good question. Um, well, I think it kind of goes back to what we've talked about in previous sessions, right? Is there's already a stigma in mental health. So if you don't even really believe mental health is real, and you know, like we've discussed before, there's a lack of resources out there for people of color, and affordability for mental health help and education. It's kind of difficult to get people to understand or see that suicide is a real thing. And I know, like you said, in our communities, um, a lot of people view it as weak. It's shameful to do that, or it's selfish. That's what I hear the most. Is it's selfish. Oh, she had kids. Oh, he had kids. Oh, you had a family. Oh, you had a life, and you just took the easy route out, right? And for me, I don't think that's necessarily fair, because I feel like that's part of the reason why people get into these depressive states, or to the point where they feel like they don't want to live anymore, is because they don't have enough. They're not pouring enough into themselves. They feel like they're just giving to everybody, giving, 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 giving. I'm always doing these different things. I'm anxious. I have depression. I have ADHD. I have this. I have that. I have that. And I just can't take no more. And they're not taking care of themselves. So for me, like saying like, oh, it was selfish, I think that's probably the worst thing you could say to somebody that is suicidal, because it's like, well, what about me? Like, that's why I'm here. Like, I need help, and you're still not focusing like on me. Like, you're just re-triggering me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that is a good question. Jay, I don't want to skip over you. Do you have any input so far?
No, I don't have no input on it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I saw someone comment, what are the signs? Roberta, do you want to go over some of the signs? So is
Um,
that, I'm assuming that question is signs that someone is committing suicide, I guess, or wants to
or
commit
or
suicide?
or that they're hopeless. So the
Yeah.
feeling of hopeless, the withdrawal, as Jackie had mentioned, giving their items away, uh, giving, telling you how they felt about you. Say, someone who is going back over, maybe you did something for a person, that person, and they're telling you how they felt about you and telling you they're going to give you they're giving you something. Say their car is their prize, and they just out of one day just say, "Hey, Nisha, did you like that car?" And you, yeah, come and get it. So those are signs that they are getting ready. Also, we like to say in our communities, which are people of color communities, oh, you if you was gonna do it, you would have already did it. You wouldn't even be over there saying it. We,
It's all
we
right.
say
Mm-hmm.
that, but the truth is, they're gonna do it, and because if they're kicking around that ball, they're really thinking about it. We don't say what we don't have inside of us. We don't say it. So if they're saying, "Hey, I don't want to be here. How this going to look without me?" They mean it. So we should be listening. We should be attuning to those things and watching them. If they're withdrawn, as Jackie said, giving away their items. If they're telling you,
Isolating. Mm-hmm.
isolating, and if they're telling you like, hey, hey, I really appreciate how long our relationship was, and and this is just sort of like giving you a goodbye, then you need to be questioning that, and also you need to be reaching out to someone, maybe on the helpline that Nisha gave you, or calling a pack team to evaluate. That's another thing. We're so scared of authority in our communities that we don't want to get professionals involved. but that could be a deal of life and death.
Hmm.
And that's a whole lot of responsibility for a friend or a family member to take on.
Yeah.
When we, we need to just be listening, attuned to that, and then acting on it. Hey, you know what? And don't worry about if you're going to hurt that person's feelings, because you can always mend a relationship later on, right? If they're living. So be more on that proactive when you see those signs. Because, I've heard a lot of people say, hey, he gave everything away. Or she had already told us what she wanted us to know about her end of life plan. And
Mhm.
these are healthy individuals
Hmm.
in their 20s. So that's letting you know it's something out the norm. It's not the other situation where they're ill or sick. It's out of the norm for that.
Hmm.
Um, I always say too, the goal is to check how you feel.
Mhm.
Check how you feel. Check your emotions. Be aware of your emotions and know that they're real. I think, we all of us are women here, so that's something that we always put to the side as well. How do we feel about something? But be aware of how you feel and be aware of how other people are feeling. Jackie, would you like to add anything to that?
Um, no, just kind of echoing what we're saying. That we don't talk about. How someone we you may see them, but you don't ask them, or you don't. You're not trying to figure out what's really going on there. And I think a lot of it's because someone may not know exactly what to say to them.
Hmm.
And I'll say that simply just being there, and just being there in their space, and even if you think you're going to be intruding, you're not. They'll appreciate it. You just coming over and just being in the space, just sitting down next to them, you know, watching TV or what have you. They may not talk much, and I know that's what I tell. I've told my in laws before, like, it's not you, it's not anything you've done, and don't take it personal. If I'm quiet, but so it's very real, and I know it may be difficult to, try to talk to someone about it, but really kind of let them lead the conversation. Don't press on it, because they may not be ready to talk about it. Um, but it is definitely real, in our communities. And I know for women, especially like Hispanic women or just women in general, they say you have to keep going, you got to keep going. And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, I do need to figure out what's going on, and I need to try to, take care of myself as well, so that I can take care of, my kids or my significant other, to be able to, function, and, not be feeling like the way that I'm feeling. So you definitely just have to, be a little bit more open and not judging as well. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. And like she said, don't take it personal. Don't make it about you. Because people who are suicidal are dealing with so much. They really need a lot of attention, a lot of help, a lot of validation. Because, like we said, they're feeling hopeless. So they really, really need things to be about them for that moment, and it's not selfish. I also want to point out too that there's not always signs. I
Hmm.
saw a comment where someone said that they felt away because other people were telling them that they should have seen the signs. People don't always show signs
Yeah.
that they want to commit suicide, and that's also a scary thing. And if there ever is someone around you, or has been someone around you that has committed suicide, I know it's difficult because you probably beat yourself up like, what if I had said this? Or what if I had went over that day? Or what if I went to this birthday party? Or what if I did this? A lot of the times it's not just one person, it's not just one thing. There's sometimes
Hmm.
it's just out of our control.
Yeah.
And these people who are suicidal are fighting internally, and there's not always a sign. Um,
Right.
which is very dangerous. I also want to talk about how to identify if you are going into crisis mode, because I've noticed a lot of people, once again, especially in our communities, um, actually do live day to day in a crisis mode and don't realize it. because we are taught from such an early age to just stomach through it, push through, be strong. We have, like we talked about, the Superwoman syndrome in a previous episode. All these different things, generational curses that have been passed down to where we kind of just suppress things. So
Nisha, can I say something before we
yes,
forward?
please,
The
please.
other the other challenge that we all have as people of color is what goes on in our house stays in our house.
Yes, that's a
So
good
it,
one.
so as you're listening to this and you want liberation, you want to challenge that. And that's all I wanted to say is that we do have that ingrained in us, like
Mhm.
Jackie had said, push through. You know, what goes on in your house is your business. It stay in your house, although it may be killing you or possibly killing someone else. We
Mhm.
have that taboo or that conflict we're set up in because of that moral value that's put upon us. So that's all.
That's so good, brother. I'm glad you pointed that out. That's very, very important. I grew up hearing that. A lot of us did. But one way to recognize, like, if you're in crisis is if it hinders one or more, or is it two or more? It might be one or more of your daily functions. So your ability to eat, sleep, communicate with people, just any daily function. If you just can't, that could be a sign that you're in crisis mode or debilitating. I also know another way to know you're in crisis mode is a lot of panic attacks. Or if you just, I just know if I'm going into a panic attack because I'm just dealing with so much emotionally, I'm like, all right, I'm in crisis mode. I got to figure something out before this goes too far left. Do y'all have any input on how to identify if you are going into crisis mode?
Well, I'm gonna add to that you're talking about a crisis right then, but also we're all coming from, or a lot of us are coming from that crisis living day to day, meaning someone in the house fighting, someone in the house doing drugs, someone in the house getting drunk, some in the arguing, bickering. Those are all crises that we have gotten kind of like accustomed to. That's why it's so hard for us to say yeah, this is a crisis. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? It
Mm-hmm.
makes it very hard because as we get older, we've gotten used to it. It's gotten
Mm-hmm.
normal for us. So we're
It's been
like,
normalized.
yeah, it's been normalized. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that's kind of how I see it. That it's kind of I came from crisis, and so it's hard for me to know to stop. I guess I should say, and really check my mental health at that time.
Yeah, which is why it's important to do that. And I love how you say that a lot and you remind us and our viewers to just check in with yourself. Really sit down, and I love like a good meditation session. I tell my clients meditate as much as possible. It can definitely keep you calm, keep you grounded, and it can give you a space and the opportunity to really understand what you're feeling um, and do something about it. So, Jay, you got anything? You've been quiet today, girl.
I know.
Um, no, I'm actually like the listeners. I'm trying to get educated on it too.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna tell y'all about a story. I used to work for organization in Collin County, and I used to do the crisis lines. So that then 1-800 number that y'all call, I was the one that come out on your crisis
Ooh,
call.
yeah.
We don't just even when you call the phone. So what happens when you call the phone, someone talks with you then, and then
Hmm.
if your conversation or your situation is so severe, they call out a crisis person that'll come out to kind of make sure you're safe and you're okay. And I was one of those persons. So I got this young fella on my caseload, real funny fella, cool. You know, I met him one time. Okay, So I went to him because his mom said he refused to take his medication. So we end up
Mhm.
getting his medication. Um, I talked with him, getting to know him. He loved video games, um, and laughing like it wasn't nothing. Like he was just like, yeah, yeah, Miss J. Um, I was going through something, you know, whatever, but I'm kind of like literally over it because I really feel like it's no help, it's no need or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, okay, so well, I'm glad that you decide to see me and seek help and all of those things. And he was like, yeah, of course. Um, I'm just trying to give it a shot because my mom wanted me to give it a shot. And I was like, well, thank you. Here is my number. Call me whenever you need me or whatever. He was like, okay, cool. We got the meds. I explained to him his meds. I let him know, hey, you don't have to always be on these meds. You know, maybe once I finish showing you the skills and all the tools that you need, maybe you can get wing off these meds. You never know what the future may hold. Um, Yesterday, the following next day, I received a phone call that he overdosed on his meds and he was found dead on the side of the railroad tracks. And I was like, and when we staffed it the next day, and the mom was like, I just wanted to know what you was the last person he talked to. I just wanted to know what he said. I just wanted to know what he said. And I was in like disbelief because I was like, hmm, I couldn't tell her what he said because I couldn't remember what he said. It's not that I couldn't at that moment I couldn't remember, but I was just in disbelief at that moment. Like I was just like startled, like I was just appalled, like what really this just really just happened. Like I just talked to this person. He was okay. He was good. You know, he said he was gonna try it. He even accepted his mess. He even said this, but the thing is that I didn't listen to my voicemail until I went home. After all this was left and done, I went home and I really don't listen to my voicemail because um, it just be too much going on my voicemail. So I just rather for the clients to call me, I pick up, or shoot me a text. I always tell people shoot me a text, or call, don't leave a voicemail because I never listen. But one of these times I was a little confused because I did not know what happened. So I listened to the voicemail, and the voicemail went like this: Hey, Miss J, man, you so cool, you so dope. I wish we would have had the time to spend together because I really wish I will. I what he say? He said, I really believe that you could have saved me, and that's the reason why I did not tell you because I knew you was going to try to stop me. I knew you was going to try to save me. And it's nothing that you did, my mom did, or it was nobody's fault. This is just something I was just tired of. And he was like, this is just something I was just tired of. And I just took it upon myself. So um, I just want to end this with a thank you. So I replayed the message um, over and over and over and over because I did not see what I fell short as a professional at.
Wow, Jay. I'm
Um,
sorry you feel like that, you know.
yeah,
I'm really sorry.
that's just at the moment. That's just how I felt. I was like, I listened to the voicemail because I was trying to see where I fell short as a professional.
Right.
I really did. I
Hmm.
wanted to see
What?
where I fell short as a professional. So I listened and I listened and I listened and I listened,
Yeah.
and the and then I finally got it because I was like, dang God, please, where did I fall short with this kid at? I knew I could have saved this kid, but I had to ask myself, could I save this kid? Did I? What?
Right.
Did I was I really able to save this kid?
Were you,
Really?
did God send you to save this kid, or did God send you to be that peace before that man decided to do what he wanted to do?
Right. So my point. So boom, it snapped to me. He said tired. That
Mm-hmm.
was the key word.
Mm-hmm.
It highlighted in my head on the voicemail. It highlighted in my head when I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw him, he did tell me he was tired.
Yes, he did.
So my advice to everyone, this is not my topic. That's why I was quiet because I did not know how to wrap my way of giving advice. So I think the only way for me to get my point across was the story.
Right.
Um, my advice is just to keep it when someone having a conversation with you. It might sound simple and normal, but just make sure you catch every detail of it
Yes.
because it helped me grow. Um, it helped me grow as a professional.
Yeah.
It made me wiser as a professional, and it makes me be more precise in detail about every little thing someone is telling me. So every time my clients tell me something, I'm very detailed on about everything that they tell me. So only if I would have called that I'm tired, I wouldn't have walked away so easily because the mom did say he was suicidal. And I was like, okay, but I thought I had another day. I thought that by him laughing and kicking and we joking, we playing video games, we even came up with a little handshake. It was cool, you know. So I just say just be more because they're gonna be short winded with you. Like they're gonna be very quick, like, oh, joke it off, laugh it off, kiki it off and all that, and just say that they okay, they good. Some of them might admit, like, yeah, I got some suicidal thoughts, that's why you here, that's why I got you, that's why I called on you. And it will really be believable. But always remember that they will shoot a hint, even though they not meant to shoot a hint. They will shoot a hint. That's my intake on it. I don't know if it answered the question or not.
It did. We appreciate it. I think that's good. It's good stuff. Uh,
Um,
yeah, I think that's awesome, Jay. Because the thing is, I always say this too. Humor covers up what?
Trauma, pain.
Trauma.
and
Yeah.
hurt.
I literally had a conversation with my friend earlier today, and we were talking
Right.
about all our problems and talking about all our problems. And he said, "Man, it's the only way I know how to deal with it." I said, "A lot of us do. A lot of us just joke and laugh our way through life." Like,
Right, right. So, when I used to go out to homes and counsel, they'll be like, I don't know what you're here for. I just was sad, or, I just had a baby because some of it postpartum depression. I just had a baby. That's nothing. And I'll say, but they'll laugh. And I'll say, well, that's why I came. Because I know that that's a sign of depression. You're not happy. You know, you're only you're making humor out of it, which is a coping skill and good. But I know that sincerely, you're not. That's not how you feel. You're just trying to, get by it. And as Jackie said, you're just trying to push on through it, with some humor. So that's awesome. It is.
So my thing is that the question is that how do you get that breakthrough? How can you know the feeling between trauma, depression, and suicidal ideation? Um, my suggestion to people is to find that trigger, is to find that trauma, to find the because the thing is that what happens is that you go you go sad, It become an emotion first. So, oh man, I'm sad. My feelings hurt. And then it lingers on and it become a symptom. So it become a depression. It become um, anxiety. It becomes like different a panic attack or um, anxiety attack, anything,
Body aches,
body
headaches.
aches and headaches and things
Right.
like that. So these are the steps. And then after you feel that body aching, so now you like, okay,
And sometimes it's
some
numbness. Like people don't even
yeah,
get sad.
numbness.
They just don't feel
Yeah,
nothing. They're just like, I'm just here.
numbness. And then yeah,
Hmm.
like all these ladies. And then it's like then you start to think about not just big. I just want everybody to understand when you don't address one trauma, it affect another or it will gain another trauma. Always remember that. So you have to address your trauma. I was just sitting and having dinner with my cousins and letting them know that, and this is what I was telling them. You can't cover up trauma. You can't
No.
cover up depression. You can't cover up anxiety because what'll happen is it's going to trigger something else, you know. And then now something else done happened. So now you don't went from simple depression to now you done got into it with your mama. So now you done went into the anger, or you done got into it with your spouse. Now you done got into this, and then you done went down the street and then cussed out somebody that came to your car, asked
Yep.
you for change. So you
Hmm.
see how the pattern
Talk about
goes,
this in
like
another
you
one.
go
That
from
plays perfectly.
one trauma after next trauma. So now after you done did one, done got into it, this person got to that, done did this, done did that. Now all of a sudden, I don't want to live no more. I don't want to be here no more. Nobody like me. Nobody understand. Nobody don't know what I go through. Nobody don't know that. You have to address one trauma after another trauma. Because if not, you want to break. You want to become brittle.
Right. You're
Mhm.
gonna
And
pass
it's going to
throughout.
be hard for you, for someone to save you. It's going to really be hard for a professional to walk right in and say, hey, let's get it. But if you saw that symptom from the first place and you address that trigger from the first beginning, then it wouldn't be hard for somebody to come. So now we on the fourth leg and
Hmm.
now you already ready to jump the gun.
Hmm.
But you
And
got
that's
to
why I said it's so important to sit with yourself on a
hmm
regular and recognize what you are feeling. Even if you have to go into a place of humility or you have to go into a place of shame, wherever you have to go, humble yourself, whatever you want to call it, and really sit with yourself and think like, okay, what's really going on here? Like, what am I feeling? I got into it with so and so today. This is something that I do because I know as I've gotten older, as an adult, I've been able to recognize like a lot of my childhood traumas that I've experienced, and a lot of it is in relationships. So if somebody makes me mad or I have conflict with somebody, I'm quick to be like, okay, did this person? Yes, I feel how I feel. My feelings are very valid, but did this person do what they did it really make it as mad as it made me, or am I really mad behind something else? Or did this make me feel how I felt when I was a kid, and now my traumas is triggered, and now I'm just unpacking all my emotions on this one person, on this one situation? So it like I 100% agree with you, Jay. That is so important.
Yeah.
So my question to the audience, the only questions I have for people that is depression and anxiety, do you really believe that it's peace in the afterlife? Do you really feel like your troubles is gone in the afterlife? So before you make that step and that next step, you got to ask yourself, is it really peace on the other side?
Oh,
Is it really is your trauma really going to be solved? Are you really going to be free in the afterlife?
or
So
right. Or you may be, we don't know,
we don't know.
I've never died before. So
Exactly.
I don't know what's gonna happen. But I know I would hate for me to do a lot of stuff to do it, and then wake up and I have to do the same thing all over again. It's like I ran away from the wrong, something that didn't work. I always tell my clients that too, Jay. I always say, I don't know. We don't know. We only know about what's happening now,
Exactly. That's
and
it. So
that's
we only can so that's the thing about it. Like we we can't say we don't know what's in the afterlife. So that's something we don't know. But don't you want to know what will happen in this life? Want don't you want to try to fix something that's see, we only know for this life. We don't know the afterlife. So I would say just give your professional, your counselor, your therapist a chance to fix it and get it right for you in this life because you never know what the outcome is in
you
the
don't. We
afterlife.
don't.
And
We
that's
And
true. But I want to point out too that I think people who have gotten to the point where they're suicidal, right? That's probably the darkest place you could ever get to once you want life to end, right? So I feel like the people who are suicidal, have suicidal ideations, are experiencing so much pain. I don't know if they care that peace
that
ain't on the other side. I feel like they want the pain to end now. As long as this pain I'm going through ends now, I get to whatever I got to get to. It's worth a try because I
right,
can't do this no more. I don't care what happened after. Whatever I'm feeling right now, I no longer can handle. I can't handle it. I
right.
can't.
Well,
And,
and I
and that's
think
the
with
mental state that people are
yeah,
in. That's what makes it so scary because it's like
well,
emotions can really get you there.
right.
Trauma can really
And
get
you
you there.
remember with that trauma, that frontal lobe is not connecting. So
Right.
it's no outcome connecting at all. There's
Hmm.
nothing triggering at all. So that is what is really being affected at the time of being that depressed at that time,
Hmm.
suicidal. Because you can't really see, you can't connect it.
And for
Can't
the
connect
viewers who don't know, the frontal lobe is the front part of your brain. And isn't
Mhm.
that responsible for decision making?
decision making, responses.
Okay, I
and
thought so.
Uh,
voices,
that's right.
voices.
That's
Remember,
that's
it's
right.
voices in the frontal lobe too.
That's
Where you like, huh?
right.
Did
That's
somebody say something to me?
yeah,
And
Mhm.
they whispering, and you really trying to listen for that voice.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I just want to say that about the trauma. That's true about trauma because what we see, especially in our communities, is that people, they come from families that they're traumatized, and then they continue traumatizing themselves all the way through life. Going to prison, that's traumatic. Going to jail is traumatic. All of those things, uh, killing someone, that's a traumatic experience for both parties, to be honest. Everybody involved at that point, but it's from out of trauma and not
Hmm.
stopping and recognizing I'm living out of my trauma. I'm living out of survival. Kind of what you were saying first to start with, Nisha, is survival. I'm living out of that survival
Yeah.
mode.
Hmm.
I'm not living, and that also is affected by that frontal lobe is also affected with that because you're always trying to survive. You're always trying to, do something, get something, and it's not connecting.
Mhm.
And another thing is the that I thought about when you come across someone who's really agitated or upset and they're yelling and you like, or they seem to be so aggressive all the time. You like, what's going on? They have been traumatized and they feel like nobody ever listened to them. So now, out of that, that's how they respond to everything.
Mhm.
That can also be a symptom of depression too. I don't know if our viewers know that as well. And I hope today's episode kind of makes sense for our viewers, the ones that have listened to previous episodes, and how the different things that we've talked about kind of connects to suicide, the generational curses, the stigma with mental health, the lack of resources, the superwoman syndrome, all these different things that we've discussed. Um, can all play a big deal and play together and intertwine with suicidal thoughts and people that commit suicide. And I've heard a statistic that said depression in Black women typically shows as aggression or agitation. I don't know where that came from, really. I don't know if that's a statistical
But the
study.
thing, but the
I
thing,
personally feel like that's just how we're interpreted already as it is.
that's
So,
right. That's right.
yeah, it's just
Because
But
interpreted
are
as
but
aggression.
are we tired?
Thank you.
Is it
right,
because we tired? That's why we it probably come off because how about we took we don't took so much and it don't even have to be black women, it's just women in general.
Hmm.
Like are we really just tired?
and felt
We,
like our voices aren't here.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Or we feel like we've been silenced.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
That's
So
my
what
whole.
do? You start going a little bit harder or louder
Yeah.
to compensate for that, which is out of trauma. You know, something might have happened to you um, earlier, and you just never voiced it. But
Yeah.
then you continue on, and it continue because the statistics is if you've been traumatized, your risk of being re-traumatized is very high.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
So that's sexually, physically,
Hmm.
mentally, all ways.
And
So
in
it,
our line of work, we go through training. I know at least I have, and I'm sure y'all have on trauma informed care and how
right,
not to re-traumatize the clients that we work with.
Right.
right,
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
very important. And like Jay said, it can trauma definitely can roll over into relationships. And I think we've talked about that in an episode too.
Yeah.
With Jay's episode about relationships. And Jay is
Mhm.
100% correct. And I can say it from experience. As a woman, I feel like, especially a black woman, I feel like my voice is always silenced, not heard. And if I am, I'm dismissed and I'm invalidated and I'm aggressive and I'm this. Y'all know the whole spiel, right? So in my relationship, I ain't gonna say which one, but in one of my relationships,
Oh
I
wow. Let me take a
felt
sip.
like put it on the table. I felt like I was not heard. I was not validated. I was not prioritized, right? So I would have these huge dramatic, you ain't validating me, you ain't this, whoa, 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 whoa. And I had to sit back and have one of them moments again and sit down with my partner and have the conversation and say, hey, I know it might seem like I respond outrageously to these things that might be small to you, but recognize that as a woman, I fight enough to be heard in the world. I fight enough to be heard on an average basis. I don't want to come home and fight with you to be heard and validated as well. And that's where a lot of that is coming from.
Okay, because these men want you to be submissive to them.
Girl,
And
let's
that's
don't get me started, child.
Look, it ain't no man over
because I'm going
right
to
now.
talk about that. And it's my turn to go because let me tell y'all something. This
We
food,
gonna have to get one to represent the men household.
but I start to tell his ass to come on here on my when it's time to talk about how to be submissive. Like he had the audacity to tell me I need to be submissive towards him. Well, what the hell you putting on the table for me to be submissive?
And don't even get me started because I feel like submission is a two-way street. I don't feel like I should be the only one that's submissive. I should be submissive in my ways, and you should too. But
We
Mm-hmm.
gonna get
we
we
can
gonna
talk
get a
about that
man.
when you
We gonna get a
come in your
man
turn.
in this show in that show, so they can represent the men at least. I think they outnumbered tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
I
please, y'all,
also.
everybody out there, please, 988. I can't stress this
Mhm.
enough. If you even feel an inkling of any type of ideation, stress you can't control, trauma you can't control, you just going through it and you feel like you can't take no more, 988. Please call.
And challenge that what goes on in my house, stay in my house. Get
Absolutely.
you get you some help.
What's
Don't
some
sit there
skills?
and be in grief. What are some skills?
Some skills and tools they can
You know,
use at home.
you know what? One of the basic tools is actually, to be honest, go outside. Just go outside. Go to a park. Go without shoes. Take your shoes off.
Mm-hmm. Ground
Stand
yourself.
in the grass. Just stand in the grass and look around you. Just look around you, and not allow, like you said, those thoughts and intrusive thoughts, and just absorb some of the energy from the earth, so
Mm-hmm.
you get grounded, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. You're getting allowing yourself to get grounded again. That's some of nature is one of the best ways to reground yourself. If you're already in a crisis or in a hyper intensive place where you're feeling like you're having anxiety attacks. Again, if you're in a room, look at if if there's a picture, if there is a door, go around that door as you breathe in and out. Go across.
In through your nose, out through your mouth. Always in through your nose, out through your mouth.
That's
Girl,
right.
you better give me some good deep breathing.
Yeah, hey, I do it myself. You hear me? Cause
Okay.
I know
I do
it works.
too.
It
I do
works.
too.
I'm telling you. And another thing is, you said it when you said I'm gonna start listening. I practice mindfulness.
Yeah,
So
that's a big
like, if you're talking, I'm 100, and I think you and Nisha was laughing at me before because I practice it so much. Like even when we were coming on, I just listen. I just stop and look and listen because I want to absorb what you're saying. I want to appreciate each moment of it. That's part of being mindful, right?
Mhm.
Appreciating each minute. That way you're not running through, because some people just run through things, run through life, and they can never get caught up. But if you just start being mindful, like, okay, you know, um, let's see, can't see the time. But if I could see the time, I would know. I'd be able to tell you if you were a client, hey, we'll never get this time back.
Mhm.
Let's just be mindful right now. So
Mhm.
just bringing a person to right now, to right
And
now.
that goes to what I was talking about. When you sit in with yourself and you do meditation, whatever you want to call it, you can do it at the end of your day and you just sit with yourself. Right now, right here. What am I feeling? Let me think about this. Being
Right,
mindful in the moment. That's a really big one. I'm also really big on solution focused coping.
right,
I teach a lot of my clients about that because a lot of our problems we can solve, right?
Mhm.
It's
right,
just the emotions that come with it or the emotions of coming with the unknown. Like, yeah, I know I can solve this problem, but what if it don't work? What if this solution don't work? What if this? What if that? Well, how do I get to this? Just focusing on the solution, making a plan, and saying, hey, this is gonna work. This is what I'm gonna do. Done with it.
right.
Easier said than done, but it's
Yeah,
a skill
but
worth building.
yeah. Oh, and the most important thing, if you do have a person that's suicidal, hey, can you sign a contract with me right now that will promise me that you won't do anything to yourself until you talk to me? It works. People, we like, even if we're that depressed, we're that sad, or and we're that, and that part of our brain is so distorted at that time, we really don't want to do it. In my experience, that's what I do. I just bring out a contract. I say, can you promise me you won't? And then I give them, like you just said, some tools to do. So if that's
Mm-hmm.
your favorite song, listen to it every day.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want you to be listening to anything that's going to have you more towards what your problem is. But if it's something that lifts you up, you feel good about, do it. I give them three things. I have them do three things of like grounding, mindfulness, listening to music, even coloring, and or
Mm-hmm.
taking a shower and some scents you like. But then I have them sign it, saying you will not hurt yourself until you contact me. And I'll say, do you promise? And they'll sign it. And it's been really good. I haven't had any suicidals. I had some overdoses though, but I haven't had, and I've had a lot of suicidal people. But my next thing is I always call the number, and I have someone, like Jay say her position is, I have someone go out. I need a wellness check. This individual has told me this and this and this, and they're located at this and this. And so,
Um,
yeah. So I always make them do me a promise, or I ask them to do. I'll say, ask them to do a promise. Hey, but it's successful because most people don't want to,
That's
like
wonderful,
they
Roberta.
said. The guy said it ain't even about you. You know, you were cool. It's
Mhm.
just how I felt.
just challenge your interpersonal. Just really
Mhm.
challenge yourself and ask yourself that, yeah, you might be going through this, but you have been through more. this is not the only trauma that you done been through and that you
Yeah.
got through. You know, you
And
gotta,
focus on what helped you get through
yeah,
before and use that skill. You
exactly.
got through it before. Well, how can you take what you did
Yeah.
before to get through
So
this?
this, yeah, this was just not your first experience. You have been
Mhm.
through way, probably way worse, probably smaller, whatever, but you got through it. So always be my Jackie.
It's just it's a season. It's a season, and you'll get through
Or
it. So you just really don't, it's not gonna be forever. And you just have to, think about what or who. Even for me, it's my kids, right? Always thinking about my kids. So just think about, who those individuals in your life that will miss you, and just it's temporary. It's not permanent.
yeah, because
Facts.
you might be good going away, but think
Mm-hmm.
about who you're leaving behind
Everyone else, yeah.
Hmm.
Think about everyone
and
else.
how your experience could affect their lifestyle.
Yes, definitely.
Well, we
All right.
want to
Well,
thank everyone for joining today. New and old
yes.
viewers, like our Facebook page, put it all on the table. We are now accepting bookings for people. We're accepting bookings for people interested in being guests on our show. Shoot us an email. We'll have a site coming soon. Anyone's welcome, men and women. I saw that comment earlier, but we weren't able to get to it. Yes, we're welcoming men, especially for Jay's turn.
Yes, we
I'm
Like
are.
looking
you
for a
said.
man. I am looking for a man. I'm looking for a man to come on board so I can argue with. No, I'm just playing. I'm just
Ah, that's her toxic trait.
Yeah, no, for real. People talk about that a lot. We're here every Monday, 8 p.m. sharp. You can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're now on iHeartRadio. Woo woo! Am I missing
Hey,
anything?
and we love y'all.
girl
Yes.
on all platforms, girl. This all.
Period.
All
Thank y'all
platforms.
for joining.
Have a good night.
See y'all next time.